Happy Tuesday, all you mentees. You know what time it is. It's time to take an advanced look at all these collected editions coming out from Marvel this week. So let's get started. Before going any further, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of all of these books. They are all due out in the direct market and book market on March 8th or 9th, depending on where and when. That kind of sounds ridiculous. No, depending on where you get your books. We got a lot of books, not just these, but we have some Marvel Omnis. We have a deluxe edition from Image Comics. We have, I think it was an Absolute from DC. It's a huge week for books. So let's go ahead and get started. And as always, I like to remind people that in the description of the video, I always put down the timestamps of where you can find each of these books in case some of them don't interest you or you don't want to know anything about any of these. So, let's go ahead and get started. First up is the Fantastic Four Volume 9, Eternal Flame. Yes, I also sing that song every time I read those words. So this is part of the Dan Slott era of the Fantastic Four. Dan Slott, of course, kicked off the new series after the Fantastic Four was canceled, and him and Sarah Pichelli came together to bring the Fantastic Four back to the 616 universe. So this collects the Fantastic Four series again that was kickstarted by him and Sarah Pichelli, and it collects issues 36 through 39. And that series, I think it kickstarted in 2018. And then you also have the Road Trip #1, which I'll talk about that here in a little bit, and Grim Noir. So that's what's collected in here. If you've not read any of this stuff, you probably are going to be a little bit confused as to why Ben and Alicia Masters have these two kids. Both of them are adopted kids. Obviously, one is a Korean, one is a Skrull. How did all that happen? What's going on with Johnny Storm? Who is this girl named Sky that's really upset with him? Kind of sum it up. Johnny Storm did something really crappy during a certain wedding of a certain villain of the Fantastic Four. And he's being punished for it, both by the person he was bonded with and the person's, well, gonna be husband. Anyway, long story short, Johnny cannot change back into his human form. As a matter of fact, he is the hottest he's ever been. He's almost like a solar flare at all times. So Reed's trying to figure out how to help him. There is a trick-or-treat special here with, of course, a Fantastic Four villain showing up. There was a secret revealed in the previous volume by Nathaniel Richards to his son, Reed Richards, as to perhaps there's someone else out there like them. And that's all I will say about that. This is a nice issue right here. This is the Wizard trying to get custody of his son back. So if you've read the Jonathan Hickman run of Fantastic Four, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was a kid there that I'll just call him his son, that the Wizard, you know, kind of neglected. And the Fantastic Four and the Future Foundation took him in. So he's been a part of this family for a long time. And now the Wizard is taking them to court. And of course, who do they get to represent them is She-Hulk. Now, let's talk about this. Actually, this one's okay. This is the one with, I believe, Nightmare to Despair. But this is the one I wanted to talk about. This issue right here. This is written by Chris Cantwell. And it's a one-shot, just called Road Trip. And holy crap, this issue... let me just show you the cover to kind of get an idea of what to expect in this particular issue. That is beyond creepy. So it's the Fantastic Four. I love this artwork in this particular issue. That's one thing I didn't talk about. Most of these issues right here are done by Nico Leon, but Felipe Andrade does the one-shot back here. And it looks very independent, but it looks so good. Especially when you get to the Fantastic Four in that creepy aspect, right, of Invisible Girl actually being able to see her muscles. Reed Richards melting away because he's, you know, elastic. Plastic. No, both of those are copyrighted. Anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot of just really messed up imagery back here. Let's look in the back here for some extras, though. So you do have some variant covers all the way here in the back. There are some variants to the one-shot, the Road Trip one-shot like that. That's Mike Del Mundo, and this one here. This is by David Nakayama and Corey Smith. Yeah, the Road Trip issue really shocked me. It surprised me how good it was. Carnage, Black, White, and Blood. Collecting that 4-issue miniseries, Carnage, Black, White, and Blood. I believe this was solicited as the cover, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the cover that we ended up with. So, I've done an overview of the gallery edition if you want to check that out. This is just the trade paperback version of those particular stories. And this is all done by just different writers. You have Ken Lashley supplying some of the artwork, Tini Howard, just a bunch of writers throughout the years that have worked on Carnage. Some of them have never worked on Carnage. And it's more of the story of the symbiote Carnage, not really Cletus Cassidy. Although you will see Cletus Cassidy show up through these pages. This one was really fun. It's much like their other anthologies that they've done, like Wolverine or Deadpool. And they're doing an Electro one with a beautiful cover by John Romita Jr. But anyway, this is the Carnage one. Lots of awesome artwork in here. Really short stories. Each of the issues contains about 3 to 4 stories in there. The book retails for $17.99. And this one has 136 pages. As far as the extras in the back, they do have the variants, the same variants that the gallery edition had. It's just that this is in trade paperback format. And those are the variants. And there's the advertisement for the Deadpool book, the Wolverine book, and like I said, we have an Elektra book. I really enjoyed these. These are nice anthologies. Savage Avengers comes to an end. Collecting Savage Avengers issues 23 through 28. Parental advisory, because there's a lot of messed up things that happen through these particular issues. Now, I can't show too much of the artwork because, well, you do have something huge happen right at about a third of the way in. So I'll stick to the beginning here and talk just a little bit about this particular book. So now you have Doctor Strange and the rest of the Savage Avengers. Of course, the big one being Conan the Barbarian. And they're all going to go fight KULAN Goth. KULAN Goth is one of my favorite villains. I love that 2-issue, what I called it like a mini event in X-Men 190 and 191. And I've already announced that there is an omnibus of this coming out later this year. I know some of the trade paperbacks are harder to find, but they've been doing a lot of reprints, stealth reprints, now that they have a new distributor. So just in case you're looking for something, keep looking, keep in them. I know on Cheap Graphic Novels they have a wish list, so you can get notified when the books come back into stock. Because I mentioned that to a few people yesterday when they were looking for Man of Steel volumes 1 and 2. But yes, Marvel has been stealth reprinting some trade paperbacks, and I'll go over them probably in one of these videos in the upcoming weeks, just some of the books that they've been reprinting. But this is the grand finale. So you have and it's not just the Savage Avengers, I'm talking it is a full-on war with all of the Marvel characters against KULAN Goth. Now, apparently, I did not know this. So the Amazing Amanda and I, we have a Friday night show where we talk about like comic book movies and things like that. And we were talking about Doctor Strange and why they could not use the name Shumagorath in the movie. So it turns out that Shumagorath, the name actually still belongs to the Robert E. Howard estate. However, if it's in comic book format, I believe Marvel can still use it. Copyrights, right? They're a mess. But anyway, Shumagorath does make an appearance in here. I'm sure you saw some pages. But it's interesting what KULAN Goth has been doing with Shumagorath. And of course, there's all kinds of just plot twists and turns. And I like the ending. And I'm excited to see where Savage Avengers goes, because there has been a new team announced for Savage Avengers. Hold on, let's get to the back here. We'll look at extras. And I don't mean team as in like a new team of Savage Avengers guest starring Wolverine and Maggot or the Beast. Why did I just go with X-Men? Sorry about that. All new Wolverine. Nope, still an X-Men. Spider-Man, there. Anyway, I mean like a new creative team that is going to take over the book. Now, here's all... I don't know why I'm going backwards. I'm playing it safe, that's why. This is the goodbye letter, and here's some variants. Some of the variants are in between the chapters. The book has 136 pages and retails for $17.99. This one collects issues 23 through 28 of the Savage Avengers, and look at that wonderful Patrick Searcher artwork, and wraps up that particular run. Amazing Spider-Man Beyond Volume 2. So this really doesn't have a subtitle. It's just called Beyond Volume 2. This one mainly written by Cody Siglar and by Saladin Ahmed. Sorry, I couldn't think. I thought Kelly Thompson did some of these, but I think she is just credited as the Beyond board. Yeah. So you also have Zeb Wells and Patrick Gleason. Patrick Gleason does do some of the writing in here for issue 83. He's both the writer and artist of that issue. But Cody Ziegler does most of the stuff that's found in here. And then when you get to the big, I guess, crossover event, it's not really a crossover, but you did see him appear in the pages of Miles Morales. Whenever you see Miles, that it's mainly Saladin Ahmed. So this collects 80.Bay or 80.Beyond and issues 81 through 85 of the Spider-Man series that kickstarted in 2018 by Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley. So I know it gets confusing, and hey, that's why I do reading orders. Speaking of reading orders, believe me, I'm trying to unbox as fast as possible, but got to get my shelves up, and then we'll go back to the Superman reading order. But anyway, back to this. 152 pages, and this particular book retails for $17.99. Now, if you want to know anything about Spider-Man Beyond, why it's called Beyond, why he has a new costume, then maybe just go to the next book, because there is a little bit of a spoiler I need to talk about. For those brave souls that are still here, or don't care about spoilers, or have already read the book, of course, I'm talking about the return of Ben Reilly, and now he is taking on the role of Spider-Man because Peter Parker has been taken out of commission. We saw in the last volume he was comatose, and actually the one shot here, the .Bay, it's interesting because Aunt May wants to help her she wants to help Peter, and she gets the help of one of her ex-lovers, Dr. Octavius. So Doc Ock tries to help Peter, try to make him better. It's pretty interesting. I love this cover. This is in the, right here on the back, but that cover is awesome. This is an awesome freaking issue right here from issue 82, and it's pretty much, Peter Parker by this point is now waking up. Of course, I don't think anybody really thought he was going to be taken out of commission forever, but he has a roommate, and his roommate goes missing. So it's up to Mary Jane to investigate why there are missing people in this hospital. It's got a really creepy feel to it. This was a really good story, and it really stood out above the rest of them. But then, yes, we have the Beyond. This issue right here, which features this character that Patrick Gleason, much like the character of Gwenpool, created on a cover. That variant cover with the webbing, and now everybody wants him to keep drawing webbing type of covers. But anyway, this character shows up in here, and trying to fight Spider-Man. Meanwhile, of course, Peter's dealing with his own issues. But yes, that is Ben Reilly under the suit because the Beyond Corporation has hired him to become Spider-Man. Now, as far as the extras in the back, there are some variant covers back here. Is that Patrick? The Leaper? What? Devil's Reign. I haven't read any of that, so I don't know why he's like that. That is a cool cover. So, I didn't even show any of the stuff with Miles in here. But yes, Miles does show up in here. Because we saw Ben Reilly show up at the end of one of those issues, and whoa, that is very nice. What was I saying? Oh, one of his issues in I think it was the last trade paperback that came out from Miles Morales by Saladin Ahmed. It's awesome Doc Ock cover right there by Corey Smith. Peach Momoko. She is just everywhere doing covers. And then some art pages here. Now, with this next book, again, just like Spider-Man Beyond, if you don't want to know anything about it, maybe fast forward to the next book, or go into the description of the video and check out what the next book is going to be. Because I do have to talk a little bit about some spoilers that happen in this particular issue, or in this prior to this. So, for anybody that's still here, okay, this cover does kind of spoil what's sort of happened. This is called X-Men: The Trial of Magneto. Two things. Number one, why isn't this an oversized hardcover format? It's an event. It was a miniseries. Why didn't they collect it in OHC? Okay. Second thing is, that's a big spoiler. So towards the end of the Hellfire Gala, there is a murder. And of course, I'm talking about Scarlet Witch. What has happened to Scarlet Witch? Who did this to her? Well, that's what this is about. And is it really Magneto? Did Magneto really kill his own daughter? So there is a whole, pointing fingers here as to who did it. I did like the fact, this is all written by Leah Williams, that X Factor comes in here. So I hope when they do an X Factor oversized hardcover, this particular miniseries is collected in there. So at least this will be an oversized hardcover. So we have the characters of X Factor investigate exactly what happened to Wanda. Who would want her dead? And of course, a lot of the fingers point at Magneto. Hence the title of the book, the trial of Magneto. So a lot of the X-Men take him down. He even feels like he is being betrayed by the Council. You know, how can they blame him for all this stuff? Now, does Wanda get to come back? If you know anything about the world of Krakoa and what the mutants are doing there, maybe. I will say something, that towards the end of this, there are new rules as to bringing people back from the dead. Bringing mutants back from the dead. And for those that have read it, I would love to know what you think, because I have some strong feelings about that. Because without going into huge spoilers, by the way, this doesn't mean that she's back. Some of these are just dream sequences. I have strong feelings about that, because if you're going to set the rules for this world, then why break them later? Why bring back... Anyway, it's hard to talk about these books without spoiling things. The book has 152 pages. It is $24.99 and collects the 5-issue miniseries of X-Men: The Trial of Magneto in its entirety. So this is what the artwork looks like. And most of the artwork in here is supplied by Lucas Werneck and David Messina. Now, as far as the extras, we have the covers by Valerio Schetti. Those are the main covers, not variants. We do have variants, and there's one beautiful variant in here. This Mark Brooks variant, that is so gorgeous. Of course, a take on a classic. Some of the variants are done in thumbnail format. It's a Greg Capullo variant right there. That was for the Fatal Attractions little card. This is David Finch. Of course, a take on the classic right there. Like that's a classic as well as that. Anyway, so you do get a lot of little thumbnail variants, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I wish they would do splash pages. But let's keep going. And for all you spine watchers out there, here are all the spines of this week's This week's Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty One Day. Anyway, smash that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notification. Let's keep going. Now, during this month, I'm going to be talking about where to best start reading Moon Knight. And I think Marvel has done an amazing job as to all these reprints of these classic runs, and Omnis, of course, on Moon Knight. Because the character is very complicated, and it really depends on who's writing him. So, this collects the Moon Knight series, issues 1 through 14. Now, this is one of my favorite takes on Moon Knight. Like, there's a lot of good Moon Knight stories. And the good thing about these TV shows and movies, despite of how you feel about them, if you're already suffering from superhero exhaustion, is that they bring to light a lot of these stories and just miniseries and collected editions that most people probably wouldn't try. Like, I know long gone are the days of like, oh, there's an X-Men movie, let's get an X-Men omnibus. Now we don't need it, right? But for things like Moon Knight, if it wasn't for the Moon Knight TV show on Disney Plus, we would not have gotten all that material that we've gotten in the last year. All the Omnis, all the collected editions, the Marvel graphic novel, the Marvel-verse book. So this is Jeff Lemire's and Greg Smallwood's take on Moon Knight. And one thing you'll notice, if you've read the Bill Sienkiewicz stuff, and I know I have several viewers that like the classics and don't want to try something new, and I get it, I respect that. Kind of wish everybody would, though. But there are a lot of throwbacks, especially to that Bill Sienkiewicz artwork. Now, this is a really unique take on the character, and it's something that they've kind of hinted at in the past. I think other people have tried to do, but I think it really succeeded here. So you have the character Mark Spector, right, who is also known as Stephen Grant, who's also known as Jay Lockley, and who's also known as the superhero named Moon Knight. Now, the question is, has he really been all those people, and does he really have the power of Khonshu? Has he really been the superhero named Moon Knight, or is he just a nut stuck in a mental institution? That's what this is. Is there really an alien invasion coming to Earth? And is it up to him and a group of his loonies? And by the way, I'm not calling these people names. I'm just using the words that they use in the book. To save mankind. How badass is that? It's one part One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, one part superheroics. And, you go into this reading, oh, maybe Mark was really just crazy. It's a different take on him. It's to the extreme. Oh, man. But it's so awesome. And then you get different artists doing different parts of the story. Like you get a little bit of a Stephen Grant story in there. You get a little bit of Jake Lockley, and you get a little bit of Moon Knight. So Francisco Francavilla does some of it. James Stokoe does some of the artwork. To me, this is one of the best. And if you've not read it, you need to do yourself a favor, because the oversized hardcover has been out of print for years. This is the most recent trade paperback. This collects all 14 issues. You don't need anything else after this. I mean, sure, you'll want to continue the stories of Moon Knight, but this is a great... This is definitely going to make it on my list as to, you know, where to best start reading the character, because holy crap, this one's so damn good. The book retails for $34.99, and it has 320 pages. That's all I will say about it, and that's all I will show, because there are a lot of amazing moments in here. Let me look in the back here for extras. So here's a little goodbye letter from Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood, and Corey Petit, and some variant covers. I've never seen that Will Spertasio cover. It might have been in the oversized hardcover. And of course, where else you can read about Moon Knight, like in the complete collection there by Bendis, which I did an overview of, and the new series here by Jed McKay. Captain America Epic Collection, The Bloodstone Hunt. Volume 15 of the Captain America Epic Collection line, collecting the years 1989 to 1990. This is the latest printing. I have no idea where my original printing is, so sorry. If I had it, I would definitely be doing a comparison. But this one retails for $44.99. You have the wonderful writings in here of Mark Grunwald and Kieran Dwyer doing most of the artwork towards the beginning. Then you get Mark Bright, Ron Lim. Actually kicking it off with the cover right there, issue 351 of Captain America. So this collects issues 351 all the way to 371 of Captain America. And we kick it off with this awesome storyline where John Walker gets shot. This is John Walker, the guy that replaced Captain America. So Captain America, Steve Rogers, is back in the role of Captain America. He's taking the cowl back. However, there's an assassination, and it's back to the whole mystery of the Scourge, too. I love that. That's one of my favorite long, ongoing stories that Mark Grunwald introduced into the world of Marvel Comics. So there has been a Scourge trade paperback, so now you can replace it with this awesome freaking Epic Collection in case you missed out on it the first time around. But this is a freaking great story. This, to me, is what the classic Mark Grunwald stories are about. Because what you're about to see when we see the next Epic Collection, I think the next Epic Collection is what most people think of Mark Grunwald. We get the first appearance of U.S. Agent John Walker showing up as U.S. Agent through these pages. And then, of course, you have this 6-part saga known as the Bloodstone Hunt, which kind of brings back a classic character, Ulysses Bloodhunt, or Bloodstone, but not really, because he's just a skeleton. And it's all these villains teaming up with Baron Zemo, who's trying to resurrect somebody, and he needs the powerful Bloodstone. So now Captain America has to join forces with this young lady right there, Diamondback, who is both a villain and maybe a superhero. There's a lot of great stuff in here. Then you have the Acts of Vengeance storyline in here. You have Crossbones in here. Of course, Diamondback, the U.S. Agent storyline. The fight with... no, I think this is the one with Submariner, right? Yeah, and then the Acts of Vengeance, of course, featuring Magneto in that ever-popular fight between Magneto and the Red Skull. And like I mentioned, Dwyer... There we go. That's where I thought Submariner comes here and fights. Dwyer does most of the artwork, and then eventually Ron Lim takes over the book for a little while. Does a lot of fill-in. And there's the classic Acts of Vengeance. Oh, it's just such an awesome... This was one of my favorite Acts of Vengeance parts, because the crossover Acts of Vengeance were hit and miss. Some of them were phenomenal, and some of them were like, that one was okay. But this is when Magneto refuses to team up with the Nazi named Red Skull, because if you know Magneto's past, you know why he refuses to do it. And then just tries to kill him instead of, teaming up with him. Such an awesome moment. Let's keep going through some of these pages here. This is the one with the Batrix Brigade that comes in. Yeah. There's a really interesting story in here with Captain America. and Mother Night, and he tries to infiltrate this group of villains, so he gets Cersei's help. So, yeah, right here. And he's never really talked to Cersei much. At this point, this is before she joined the Avengers, so this is during the time when she was just an Eternal. So she turns him into a teenager so he can go and infiltrate, like do some undercover stuff. Yeah, right here. I thought that storyline was awesome. As a kid, I remember digging it. That was a back issue that I found because I wanted to start reading Captain America, and these were pretty cheap when I was collecting comics. Everything was just X-Men. If you were X-Men or Batman, those were the main expensive books. Let's look at the extras. So here are some extras. You have the Bloodstone Hunt, the trade paperback from the 90s. Marvel Fanfare Pinups. The Marvel Age by Mark Gruenwald here. And then Ralph Macchio. And his outros are really nice. He talks about working with Mark and how he wishes that people that enjoyed his stories could have known him, could have known Mark as well as he did. So let's keep going. Oh, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention, this book has 496 pages and retails for $44.99. Now, the new book that's coming out that is not a reprint is this right here. Captain America Arena of Death, Volume 19. Now we're moving into the years 1992 to 1993. So collecting Captain America 411 to 419, Annuals 11 and 12, Ghost Rider Captain America Fear, the U.S. Agent miniseries, I think Mark Bright does the art in there, and Silver Sable and the Wild Pack number 15. So it's that crossover. So this is the graphic novel here by Howard Mackie, who was writing Ghost Rider at the time, and this is Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. And it's a team up between Captain America and Ghost Rider against this character known as the Scarecrow. You can pretty much go from there if it's called Fear, where it goes. Then we get to the Captain America annual here. This is the Kang. Is this the Citizen Kang? Yeah. Citizen Kang story. Dan Panosian cover, and you have a Mark Pacella and Dan Panosian piece right here. Interesting that this only collects the Captain America issue, and that's not that big of a deal because most of them do that. But it does say to be continued in the pages of Thor Annual. And usually with these long story arcs that are crossed over, they tell you a little bit of a blurb. And this is what happened next. But they leave it out. And I want to say maybe they were supposed to and it was just left out. I'm not sure if that's on purpose or not. And then you get the rest of the annual stuff here. I don't know if the top 10 villains would still be... Although that guy's a creep, though. Dr. Faustus. He'd probably make top 10 still. It's interesting to go back and read what was considered top 10 then. I don't know. Some of these absolutely would still stick around. I don't know if the Skeleton Crew would still make it. Although they do have some creepy villains. We have Falcon showing up with his new costume through these pages. Now, this is the era when I started getting Captain America every month. Or heck, every couple of weeks because they went bi-weekly for a while. Or bi-monthly. So bi-weekly? Yeah, bi-monthly. But this is when Rick Levins was doing the inks. You have George Russo's doing the colors. Joe Rosen doing the letters. Danny Bulanati doing the inks and the pencils. Rick Levins, like I mentioned, and then Mark Gruenwald. But this is when Rick Levins was drawing the issues. He was doing the pencils. You had Danny Bulanati doing the inks. You had Joe Rosen doing the letters. George Russo's doing the colors. And Mark Gruenwald telling the story. And out of all those folks, Danny's the only one that's still alive. And it's weird when I left, like, leaving comics and coming back, you want to see some of these familiar names. I remember Rick Levins really enjoying his art because it was, he was still traditional, but trying to get into that 90s face of artwork. I don't know. It just felt really strange coming back to comics and then trying to find these artists where they were, or some of these letters. Joe Rosen was one of my favorite letterers, mainly because he was with X-Men for so long. And Russo's, he had been drawing and inking for so many years. And then, of course, Mark Gruenwald. It's sad, like, to look at something like this. Most of these people that are worked on these particular issues are just gone. And even sadder than that is, to some people, this is when Captain America comics started going downhill. Because they think of the 90s, they think of, over muscular characters, over the top redesigns of classic costumes, ridiculous villains and team ups. I don't know. To me, it was part of my childhood. I was a freshman in high school. I didn't mind it. I thought it was just part of storytelling. I thought it was transitioning into the new phase. And you see that nowadays with artists, right? Like you see a lot of I mentioned this several times. What I like to call the Stuart Eminem type of artwork was like cartoony mixed with traditional art, Western art. But it was D-Man comes back in this. But it was interesting during this time that I think when going to the comic book shop, like people that were enjoying the Mark Gruenwald stuff, like the older guys that I would talk to about Mark Gruenwald's run, they were like, I'm not picking that garbage up anymore. And this is before Capwolf. I thought it was all great still. Bantam! I had the little card that he came with. But anyway, I don't even know what the point of that was. It was just me reminiscing on my childhood and thinking about all the people that have passed that brought these stories together. And whether you loved them or whether you were like, it still happened and it was still canon. The Scourge storyline. Gosh, what an awesome story. A guy's going around killing villains, but is it really one guy or was it a group of people? Really comes... MC Wyman, he's the artist in this, not MD Bright. I was mistaken. One geek point away from Omar. Now, this book right here retails for $44.99, and it has 496 pages. Let's look at here in the back. So you have a little bit of the Marvel Age articles, Mark's remark, especially talking about the Scourge, and then the annual right there. Would have loved the Ralph Macchio outro. But yeah, this is the card. I have no idea what happened to those cards. I'll tell you what, they're not worth as much as I thought they were going to be. Last but certainly not least is the Fantastic Four Epic Collection. Nobody Gets Out Alive. Volume 23, 93 to 94. Similar era to that Captain America that we were just talking about. Collecting issues 377 to 392 of Fantastic Four. Annual 27. Namor the Submariner 47 through 48. And Fantastic Four Ashcan Edition. Sorry, I have to think about that. I think that was the Star Blast crossover. And I was just thinking, has there been a Star Blast trade? Anyway, we kick it off with this character named Huntra, who's come to destroy the Fantastic Four. Now, this is really interesting because the title that they use here, this cover, had the word 4 marked out, and they wrote 3 there. So, yes, spoilers. Something does happen where it's only 3 of them left. What could possibly happen to the Fantastic Four? So we see the big reveal in the final issue of the character that came from the future, that took Franklin Richards somewhere, and Sue doesn't care. She's like, bring my son back. But Mom, I am your son. That's right. The guy was the son the entire time. He's like, wait, I'm your son. I was here to take Franklin to a safe location. And Sue, because of all the crap they've been through, refuses to believe them. This is also the time when Ben is wearing that helmet because Wolverine went all crazy during the Secret Defenders crossover event. Piebuck is back. Claw is back. You have all these characters come back, and this kind of sets up the events of something that will be called the Fantastic Force, which to a lot of us was badass and should be reprinted. You have the return of Sharon Ventura, who used to be the Thing, and her body is just morphing into something horrible. Now, the Nobody Gets Out Alive, that's been collected in trade paperback before, but it's been so many years that it's been out. And honestly, that trade paperback kind of fell apart. Now, this is the big issue right here where something huge happens. And I remember when this issue came out, I didn't get it because I wasn't collecting Fantastic Four monthly then. Well, I remember immediately this stupid issue shot up in price and people at the comic store were wanting $10 for it. And I thought, what? That just came out like last week. Apparently spectators. They've been around long before the internet. So, anyway, one of the Fantastic Four does die and does come back later. I mean, I don't have to tell you much about that. We have Sue Storm's outfit, which, some people nowadays are like, that's ridiculous. Even back then, we thought it was ridiculous. But it's very self-aware. Tom DeFalco wrote this. Like, she knew what she was wearing. And she even makes a comment about it later on. And I love the comment because Namor's sitting there and he's like, I like the Sue. I don't think you should go back to your traditional outfit. Oh, Elijah, how much I miss these issues. So, this is all written by Tom DeFalco, the late Paul Ryan, drawing a lot of this particular volume. So, during this Fantastic 3 phase, the return of Malice, we do have temporary members like Ant-Man. You do have Namor that show up and, kind of join the team for a little bit. But by the end of all of this, something's going to happen that's going to be world-changing for the world of the Fantastic Four. And there will only be a Fantastic One left. And that's it. And they are to carry the torch of the Fantastic Four into the next volume. So this is the big crossover right here. Ben gets taken over by this, what is that? The Brain Sucker, I think, or the Hugger. That's what it is. Skull Hugger. I was wrong. Yeah, this is all part of the Star Blast crossover. So the Star Blast crossover was a event. Started off in the Star Blast comics from Namor, crossed over into the Secret Defenders, Quasar, I think, and of course the Fantastic Four. But this only collects the Fantastic Four and Namor part. Oh, Jeff Iserwood does the artwork of Namor here. This is the same run that John Byrne kickstarted. So yes, part of the Star Brand crossover. This is part 11. Oh man, I forgot about this. Elijah's baby and the truth about it. Oh, that one was rough. And then this kicks off the No One Gets Out Alive storyline. This is the scene I was talking about, where he's like, I rather liked it smooth. King of Fishes. We have this character here known as the Dark Raider who shows up, and he's a mysterious type of character, and you'll see who he is later on. He or she, rather. The return of the Molecule Man, and the Beyonder in the annual right there. Honestly, let's talk about this, because if you've watched the show Loki, then this particular annual is going to mean something bigger to you. Alright, so here's annual 27. But before I talk about that, here is a tribute to Jack the King Kirby after he passed away. Everybody was releasing tributes like this, whether it was DC or whether it was Marvel, because he created so much, and he meant so much to the people. I mean, if not for him, we wouldn't have had these issues, or these collected. It's crazy to think about. Mark Grunwald wrote this issue right here. This is the TVA, the Time Variance Agency. And he writes himself into the story. So he's an agent of this agency that fixes the time variance. Things that are supposed to go wrong or right. So, of course, it features the Fantastic Four. He's heavily in it. And that character is played by Owen Wilson in the TV show Loki. And the TVA does make an appearance there. I thought that was so cool. I remember that being a house ad right there. So there's time travel elements here, going to the past, to the future, revelations. And then, like I said, by the end of it, there's only one member of the Fantastic Four. The truth of Elijah's baby. Johnny gets all heartbroken about it. Now, let's look at the extras before we spoil anything. I think everybody should read it. Because to me, this is one of the best, most underrated run of the Fantastic Four. Just like Grunwald's Cap. So this is a pinup here. This is 75 cents. Oh no, maybe it was a cover. By Mike Mignola. We have the Ashcan edition. We have some artwork in here by John Byrne. And of course, Jack Kirby and Paul Ryan, who was drawing the books at the time. Kind of keeping you up to date on to what's happened. The Nobody Gets Out Alive introduction from 1994 trade paperback. There's the house ad, I thought. And then this is the afterword by Paul Ryan from the 1994 trade paperback. And back then, they had to have additional pages so you could have the splash pages and spread pages in the right order. So sometimes they had to add pages. So some of them trades added additional content. Like for those of you that had Extinction Agenda or Executioner Song. So for this, for Nobody Gets Out Alive, they added additional recap pages as to what's happened previously. And then this is from the year in review. The book retails for $44.99 and it has 504 pages. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your confirmation email from CGN, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up, if you're a huge fan of the Epic collections, if you are hoping they'll do a Moon Knight omnibus one day, but you've never read any of the Jeff Lemire stuff. I would love to know all those comments down below. And yeah, let me know which one you're most excited about. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and Patreon, amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, all of you, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.